Namaste. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunattu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Of all the species on the earth, human being is the only species who has imagination, and he also has created. He can create the whole parallel worlds within himself. Lives in that world. This is something which is unique thing about human being. He dreams because that he has all these abilities. That's the reason why he could also bring it out into the practical level outside to creation possible. It was very famous saying that man looked at the bird and thought that he can also fly like bird. That thought came, imagination came, and he started himself thinking about dreaming that he's flying, and all that developed aeroplane. All these various structures are provided because of that. So it's his imagination which has given that kind of a thing. Extraordinary ability that human being has is this imagination. And this imagination is the one which is basically happening in the subtle world. That means he creates the whole thing in the subtle world, and then it brings it out into the real world outside, into the manifested world outside. And by the time it comes to the manifested world outside, there may be so many changes that take place. But then the birth for all those things has created is given by this imagination. That's why it is said that, come on, think of it, imagine and create. It's wonderful. And what is the basis for that? Basis may not be there anything, but then it's your inspiration to do that as the one which brings down to creation. Now, like the way that man has this ability to create, imagine, and all those things in the subtle world, and then which comes to the manifest world, the same thing is the way that we can think of that in a seed, there is an imagined way of the whole plant that is the subtle world, the whole plant exists with all its fruits and flowers and all those things. And from that subtle world, it comes into the manifested world, the world outside. And for a human being, that the subtle world many times is based on whatever that he suppresses and puts it into that subtle world, and which is responsible for his dreams. Last time we were discussing about the way that Upanishad looks at the Sanatana Dharma looks at human being based on his experience, and based on his experience can we bring about the experience of self. So all experiences can be divided into these three different areas. One is the gross world experience, where you see, you hear, and you discuss about the people so that you communicate. All these things happen in the gross world. Gross world belongs to the gross objective world that outside. That means to say, whatever that I can perceive with my senses, anybody else also can perceive with the senses. But apart from that, there is what is called as a subtle world. And that's what your own experiences, which are in the form of a dream. And the dream world is something which is very unique for you. You are special for you. It belongs to only you. That's why it is called as Pravivikta Bhuku, or the subtle world. Whatever that happens in the subtle world, it's your own experience. And you can't ask that experience to be believed by somebody else outside. He has his own subtle world, he has his own subtle expressions about the subtle world, feeling about the subtle world. And then the third is that where gross is not there, subtle is not there, but you are quiet. That's what is the deep sleep state. There is what is the difference between the deep sleep? Behind that, we are the consciousness, and that's what is the fourth state called as Turiya. What is the difference between the deep sleep and the Turiya? The difference is only one thing, that is, Turiya has is conscious sleep, and unconscious Turiya is what is deep sleep. So between these two things, that there is a commonality about that is that you are quiet. Quiet in the sense that all the external senses, all the external objects, everything has become silent. There is no activity that's going on externally, apparently. But then what happens in this deep sleep state, it's also called as vritti, or the activity of mind. The Shastras put it. What happens? Pramana Viparya Vikalpa Nidra Smritayaha. That's what Patanjali says. Nidra is the deep sleep state. What happens in the deep sleep state is basically that all that, whatever that is supposed to be the activity in the wakeful state, everything goes into the seedal form and as a seed that exists within you. It's in the form of a seed within you. And this is supposed to be the state where you are not present, awareness is not there. And then when you wake up, all that, whatever that is there in the form of vrittis, come out into the manifestation world outside. So that is why, very beautifully said in Zen philosophy, a fool goes to sleep, wakes up as fool, but a fool goes to samadhi, come out as wise. Because basically that he has consciously crossed the idea of what is called as the vritti state, the state of activity of the mind, and comes out of it. That's how he basically manifests at that level. So this is the third state. Now the second state, the dream state, or which is supposed to be subtle level, sukshma level, it's very important, because sukshma level, that we keep all our desires, all our passions, everything that is there in that sukshma world. So it is supposed to be basically a world where it is governed by our own passions and all those things. And that is what is Ichcha. Ichcha means. And from that Ichcha, Ishvara comes, Aishwarya comes. That means your whole richness that you keep in that particular position. Now, what happens is that there is another way of looking at this particular state is that all our uh, fears, all our anxieties, however much you take care of it, but still that they remain. In order to get out of that particular imagination that is there, this subtle world, we try to create gods and goddesses to take care of it. Let me make a little explanation about this particular thing. See, people travel in the ghat sections, ghat areas, hilly areas. You know that the roads are narrow and the vehicles are precariously traveling. At that point of time, the drivers, the beginning of that ghat section, there's always a temple, and they go to the temple and then pray. Why is that? However much that they take care of the vehicle conditions and everything they ensure, and almost like they would have traveled for 100 times on that ghat road. Every bend that they remember very well, it's there in their memory. In spite of all those things, there is a fear of unknown, falling. And that fear of danger, something like that, you cannot do by any amount of training and all that. It has to be there. And in order to get rid of that fear, which is suppressed within you, you offer it to the God. So this God is an imagination that we created so that our faith in God is the thing which can take away the pressure in the form of anxiety and the form of fear that's there within us. In fact, this is so beautifully seen in this culture that when the child is going through some dark place, so mother says that you say Hanuman Chalisa, Lord Hanuman will take care of you when you cross that road. Not that there is something like Lord Hanuman is there and then helps you to cross the road, But actually, what happens is that you feel that you have surrendered to somebody, and that somebody is your own imagination, a beautiful god called as Hanuman, and then you feel assured. In fact, there are such beautiful stories written behind it, very touching story, having wonderful feeling of that. One little girl, she was admitted into the school, and then the the teacher said, "Come on, you are supposed to pay the fees, and you came from that place and going through the forest. It's really very thick and all those things." And then she says, "My mother is very poor, therefore I cannot pay the fees. My mother cannot pay the fees, but then I want to learn. Therefore, I want to come here." But then, with a lot of struggle, that the teacher finally agreed. But then, how to come from all that village in that early morning and the evening and all that through the forest all alone? He says that, "Why don't you, teacher, help me to come?" The teacher said that, "Look, Krishna will help you because your mother is devoted to Krishna. Krishna will help you. You don't worry about it." Okay. She goes back, and the mother also says the same thing. And every day, the child is coming to the school. The teacher watches that the child is happily coming to the school, does the whole homework, everything is there. She is the brightest in the school. Suddenly, one day he got a doubt. He said, "You said that in the forest you are coming all alone. Who is coming with you to drop you in the school?" Then the girl very innocently replies to the teacher, "Krishna will come to drop me." And this teacher, who was supposed to be a bhakta himself, as a devotee of Krishna, he couldn't believe. He said, "What? Krishna will come with you? Are you sure?" "Yes, not only he will come with me, but on the way that we sit down next to the pool, pond, and then we'll be talking stories, and then he will do my homework also." And then they looked into his books. The homework are blemishless. Everything is perfectly done. Wow, what happened to this? "Are you really sure that Krishna is coming, or are you bluffing?" The girl was very innocent. She turns to the teacher, "No, Krishna is regularly coming every day with me. He comes both to drop me in the school, and then I go back into the forest, and then he will come there, will be waiting for me. And then we both go, we both play, we both do the homework, and then I reach home." So beautifully, she explains about the whole thing. The teacher didn't believe it and said, "Okay, today let me come along with you." And not only that, a couple of other students also, they came along with her. And then they came to the forest, and then Krishna is not there. And then they start shouting, "Where is Krishna? Where is your Krishna? Where did you see him?" There is no Krishna at all. And this girl started calling for Krishna. And then she cries, "If you do not come, then these people think that I'm bluffing." That's what they say. So therefore, that please come. Then she hears a voice, they all hear a voice saying that, "Look, if you would come alone, I will come with you. If all those people are there, I would not come because you have a faith in me. The others do not have. They may go to the temple, they may offer their flowers, they may do all kinds of things, but they don't have faith. What is more important is that the faith that you have, you create the divinity within you." So this is how this subtle world is the place where that you put your faith, and out of which you create all those things. It's not just an imagination that man wants to fly, but it's a faith behind that man can fly in the air is the one which brings about all that kind of development that is there. So therefore, that in this area, subtle world, we have all these gods and goddesses and all those things. And human being definitely has this image of God in within himself in his imagination, because that gives him an assurance. Imagine right from the beginning that this is how basically mankind developed the idea of God, particularly those days when we didn't have knowledge about fire, knowledge about light, and man was staying in the cave. Imagine what was his life, full of danger. Every night used to be like a dream, like a nightmare. So it was very difficult because any animal can come. He's the weakest of the links. But then, therefore, that he must have had that fear of God The God being there, God is taking care of him in spite of the fact that he's going through all the sufferings. So this kind of an aspect that was there throughout the mankind, throughout the world for the mankind. So this aspect is always there within us to see that there is a Godhead. First time when the fire was born, that is what they thought, that fire is God. Fire really saves us because when the fire is there, that you can lit the cave and then he is safe. Animals do not come near. And it have the fire in his hand and then he can walk to see that he'll be able to recognize what is there on the way. And also for cooking the food, for everything, fire was so important. Because it was so important, it was doing so many things, fire was given as the place of God. That's why in the earliest of the Upanishads, Rigveda, Vedas, the very mantra with Rigveda starts is Agnimele Purohitam. That means to say it is basically the fire god. We start offering our respects for that fire god because he takes care of us. There's a big difference between the Sanatan Dharma, the Dharma that comes from the Indian culture, and some other cultures that was there, where other cultures said God created man like himself, and then he provided all the other things to subserve man. Whereas Sanatana Dharma says that God himself comes to us in the form of fire to save us. God himself comes to us in the form of a water or river to save us. God himself comes in the form of a tree, brings us nice, wonderful fruits. So look at the way, two different points of view. One way of looking at it is that God created all these servants for mankind. So therefore, everything that is there on this world, he has to serve man. So man became arrogant. Another way of looking at perception is that God created all these things, or God became all those things to see that he will make man comfortable. So therefore, that we are grateful to God, we are grateful to all these things. That's the reason why in Sanatana Dharma, a river is a god, mountain is a god, sun is a god, fire is a god. There is nothing which is not God in front of us. That's why the Upanishad says that everything is, whether it is uh, steady or whether it is moving, everything is nothing but God. Isavasyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena punjita magrata kasya svidhanam. So therefore, that you approach this whole universe with that kind of a reverence. With that, what we have achieved is that we go to the world with that reverence so that we don't want to abuse this world. We don't want to destroy this world because who would like to want to destroy his own creator? No, we don't want to do that. That's why we always had the idea of ecology as a reverence to the nature. It's not a question of protecting the nature to see that we will face the dangers of the nature being disturbed. But idea is that you protect the nature. Basically, nature is something where you respect it. So this is the way that the whole idea of gods and goddesses, imagination, all these things came from that subtle world. So when you look at this subtle world, it's such an extraordinary, wonderful world. What is the dream is supposed to be suppressed emotions that is there, which is forms a subtle world. Our imagination for creation, for creative activity, also from the subtle world. Apart from these two things, there is a third important portion is that all these mythology, what we call it as the Puranas that is there, all the gods and goddesses, their impressions, everything comes from that subtle world. So much subtle world belongs to individual that I may believe in a particular God, my son might believe in a different God. My wife can believe in a different God. My neighbor can have a different God because it's only your own personal thing. So therefore, that this kind of a society where the different gods are there, different godheads are there, different images are there, and each one has a faith, each one has a surrender to one aspect or the other. He doesn't have to worry about saying that everybody has to believe in my God. If you don't believe, that you will go to hell. Even heaven and hell are supposed to be imagination, man's creation. In fact, it's very beautifully said. Hell is created for the sake of others, heaven is created for ours. Heaven where we go after die, and hell is the others will go when they die. And your own hell and heaven, your own creation to show that how the heaven and hell are there. Like, for example, a person who is staying in the hot climate of the tropical climate of India, for him, the heaven is a very cool place, pleasant place. And whereas hell is place where the oil will be boiling and somebody dipped into the oil. Whereas in the case of, say, upper parts of Himalayas in the Nepal and all those things, where so much cold that they have the goddess who is very warm, somebody who looks at the things in a warm state. Their heaven is where that everything is air conditioned. That means it's warm and all those things that is there. So each has his own imagination. And say where the culture uh, uh, prevented them from drinking, in such cases that heaven is where they don't get the drink, but actually the river of liquor is flowing. You can take bath in that, you can take a dip into that. Here, you have to put the liquor into you. There, you put yourself into the liquor. And where there is so much of suppression in the world outside, that is the place where they have created a heaven where all these beautiful girls are there and they'll be given to you. These are all our imagination. But then there is one basic question is there. We know very clearly that in this world, if I have to enjoy the liquor, if I have to enjoy the sex, or if I have to enjoy anything, I need to have this body. And this also should be fit body. If it's not fit body, I can't enjoy it. Like the way that I love sweet, but I cannot even take a bit of sweet, immediately my health will get upset. Then that sweet will make me miserable. I have to have a fit body. Body should be there, fit body should be there to enjoy it. But unfortunately, what happens? We leave this body here and go to the heaven or hell. So where is the question of subjecting ourselves into that? So however beautiful girls may be there, if I don't have a body, what does it matter to me? However, liquor may be flowing there, but if I don't have a body to drink that liquor, what's the purpose of that? But anyway, these are all, they say that's why they don't question these things. In fact, yesterday only I was listening to one of the video. It says that, look, it is very clearly said in the book that sun is going around the earth and that's what we see, and the stars are going around the earth. Scientists say that it is the earth which is going around the sun. So what do you say about it? Then he immediately asked, do you believe in God or do you believe in scientists? Immediately this little child, he got confused. And then with a very dull face, he said, yeah, I believe in God. So therefore, believe in God, don't believe in. That was the teaching of one of the religious masters there. I was feeling very sad about it. So that means all these things that scriptures have created in they're all imagination. Similarly, all these powers and forces that are there, we have given them various godheads. Like the knowledge is there, we have given the godhead, like Ganesha. Similarly, that you can see that God is somebody who is absolutely fast. The wind is something which is so fast, and then wind's sun is supposed to be super fast. And that's why we have Hanuman, supposed to be the Vayuputra, son of the wind god. So all these things show that our imagination is the one which created all these things. But then, if we just simply say that imagination created all those things, then what happens is that people will not have that devotion, people will not have that idea of faith, Shraddha. Actually, higher than the faith is what is called a Shraddha. And with the Shraddha, you cannot go to the God. That's the reason why they created the whole lot of these Puranas or the scriptures, where not only that they have these gods, but then the whole life has been picturized. They have their parents, they have their whole area. But in spite of all those things, what they do is that they manifest that divine qualities in them. The compassion, somebody who is doing right, they try to support that somebody who is doing right. Test somebody whose devotion to God. All those things are there. After testing why, then finally that they get the benefit of that God who is present there. All these stories are created. Wonderful. In fact, that's why every year that when we do the puja for the Ganesh, that is the all over the country, that you can see the wave of Ganesha festival that's going on. And at the Ganesha festival, we read the stories. A story of Satraji, story of this, story of that. And all these stories will show that how you have to surrender yourself to the God so that you'll be freed from the blemish. So they created a small little idea. It's very beautiful. People who have taken to Vedanta, the highest level of philosophy, where the questioning is done, they don't believe in all those things. So they don't take these things very serious, important. Whereas common man requires that. How many of us can really go to that level of thinking, analyzing, and all that? Very few. It may be about 1% of the population, even that's also very high. How many scientists are there in this world? Handful of scientists. So few people who can really think like that, understand all that is supposed to be very few. But then large number of population, they'll be happy having these gods, having these godheads, having these powers in the hands of God, and they surrender to these gods and they make their life full of values because the divinity is nothing but these values. That's the reason why last time I was saying that the God is supposed to be somebody who has that godliness. If he does not manifest that godliness, and then how can we call it as God? Krishna in Bhagavad Gita gives us the idea Daivi Sampat. That means to say extraordinary treasure called as godliness. And what are that? Kshama, the compassion, love, and then patience, and the idea of admiring something, respecting the elders, respecting these things. These are all supposed to be the qualities of the divinity. So if somebody has even a glimpse of that divinity, experience of the divinity, what he has to manifest is these things. If really that is an experience of divinity, these are the things he manifests. But unfortunately, what happens is that when this becomes like his arrogance, not divinity, then he becomes like a demon. That's the reason why all the scriptures also have given such people who have done extraordinary, wonderful penance. They might have had that God experience, but then all that God experience has become their ego and they become demons. And even these demons also is our own picturization. And in such a way that we picturize that they become bad, in spite of the fact that they had approached God in us. But then later on that they become demons and then they create problems to the world. And again, God has to come to see that they eliminate it. We have such people are there who are supposed to be demons. And because that when the God comes and eliminates the demons, we have these festivals. So all that beautiful story that is there, everything is in a in a subtle world, all those things are there. But the power of subtle world is so great, so important that if one really dwells on that, he will have the perception of that subtle world, not just as dream, but it takes to the form of reality, in the sense that he sees that as powerful as the reality itself. That's why we have people who have the visions of God, visions of various happenings of the divinity. And these visions that they see as supposed to be spiritual experiences, they're very true for them, but not for everybody else. It is good for them, they have those things, because it's like an assurance that is given. Like last time I was saying that these visions are useful to see that they get the uh, they get the positive thrill, positive approach towards that practices when they are doing it. It's like the way, as I said last time, that you are going to a place X And then you see the milestone that is there, shows that you're only 10 miles away from it, 15 miles away from it. Wow. So I'm now approaching that. There is an enthusiasm that is there. Like that, these images, they'll give you the God. And we have created the whole story behind these gods. And these stories are so important, so wonderful. In fact, I remember that there is a story on around Shiva Mahapurana. It's a whole lot of stories, a huge one. And a friend of mine who is away from a different country, different culture, but then she has developed so much of an interest in that Shiva Purana. She sincerely read that for almost like a couple of years. Not only she read, but then every bit of it, she has taken it to the heart. That means now that whole Shiva Purana was very living experience for her. And then she happened to come to uh, with me to India, and then we went to one of the Shiva's places. And when we went there, and then she was seeing the various panorama there, and then suddenly she recollected, wow, is it not that described in the case of the Shiva Purana? That Shiva was here, Nagarjuna was here, I mean, Arjuna was here, and then the lady comes, and then Parvati comes, and then from here, it is a Nandi comes. So, all that, when she was describing the people who are Indians, belong to this culture, they were around her, they were surprised. They said that she talks about this whole Shiva Purana as if she's living there, whereas we have not even read that book. So, this is the kind of an experience one can have. Similarly, the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, the story of Rama and Krishna. Yeah, they were there at some point of time, but today they are not there. But the way that the description is given, the ideas are given, emotions are so beautifully knit in that way, so that they become living experiences for us. They become living experience. When they become living experiences, what happens is that those characters will have their influence on our psychology, our way of life, our direction of life called as disha. So we have values in the life. Suddenly we remember that Rama did that kind of sacrifice. I should be able to do some little kind of sacrifice. So all these things are something which is basically to see that how man develops. Like last time I said that whatever they supposed to be the qualities of the realized soul, they are for us to be emulated, or we have to imitate that consciously and be that way. And how this is how it helps. That's one of the reasons in this culture. All that whatever that is there is something which is very living, vibrant aspect of it. They did not go into the books of history. It is a reality in front of us. So at the subtle world that we have, all these gods and goddesses, all these stories that are there, and there is so much of personal impression, personal idea about this is that what may appeal to you is different from what may appeal to your child. Like, for example, same Krishna's character. You, as an intellect, when you look at it, Krishna is an extraordinary, wonderful intellect. And you remember Krishna Bhagavad Gita, standing on the chariot and trying to give the teaching to Arjuna. That's a picture of Krishna that you love, you adore, that's so close to your heart. Whereas your wife might not like that Krishna because she is a very simple lady. She likes that Krishna who loves everybody because women is love. So therefore she likes the Krishna who is there taking care of mother, taking care of Bhanumati, taking care of this and that. And there's a lot of flow of the love, care, compassion of Krishna that is there. But for somebody else, Krishna can be something different. And that's for a child, for a youth. The youth is the one who says that Krishna is, he remembers about Vrindavan Krishna, dancing Krishna, playing the Garbha, all these things, that becomes very important. For a child, he requires a child Krishna, standing on the Kalindi, the snake, and then dancing on top of it. He's a hero for him. See, that means same image of Krishna can be of different people and impresses different ways. So therefore, that we have all these stories, scriptures that are there, we are rich with them. So rich with them that we can name the shops out of them, children out of their names, the streets on their names, everything will be there. You can come across so many different ways. So many different ways that God name is there. I wonder many other cultures that they don't have so many gods and their names and all that. They use some objects outside. The direction is east, therefore it is east road. Direction is west, that's a west road. Yeah, practically it may be good. But in the process, that what happens is that it just only limited to material level. It didn't go beyond that. So all these things are very important to see that people have these experiences. So this type that our imagination, our subtle world developed, right from the childhood, the subtle world is developed in us because of the culture, because of the parentage, and because of the temples and the society that's there around us. We create that every time we go there. We imagine the God, we think of God, and it's no more imagination, it becomes real, more real than the dream itself. Such reality that it gains. In fact, all these gods and goddesses are our own imagination. It is indicated by one of the greatest of the Indian saints that we had in Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. When he had the experience of Divine Mother, he always used to go into the meditation. When he goes into the meditation, he sees the Divine Mother Kali with a sword in her hand and then standing there ferociously. And then he gets absorbed into her. And the moment he comes outside of that particular image of God, the vision of God that is there, he becomes so restless. And immediately he starts crying, saying that, "Oh, mother, why did you leave me? Why don't you let me be there absorbed in you all the time? Why did you ask me to come out of it? Why did you make me to come out of it? Please take me back." He cries, he pleads. And people around him, because it's purely his own experience, and the others do not have that, do not know what's happening. So they always used to feel compassionate about him. They used to feel sorry why he is having so much of trouble. And in this process that sensitive, he became so sensitive that his skin was having that feeling of sensitivity that he had to be put, I mean, they had to put the tender banana leaves and he would sleep on that because even the coarse cloth touch he could not, his skin could not take it. Truly, it manifested in his physiology. In spite of the fact that was such an extraordinary, wonderful experience of Divine Mother, seeing the Mother, having the visions of Mother all the time, uh, Goddess Kali. In spite of it, when Totapuri came, he saw him. He said, "Look, you have to go beyond that into Nirvikalpa, into total absence of anything that is there." "But how can I go beyond? I want to be with Mother." Said, "That's the reason why you want to be with Kali. You are not able to go beyond that. Leave this idea, leave Kali behind and go beyond that." But they said, "How can I leave Kali? She's there. She's there so live in front of me. She's so living in front of me. I'm with her. I feel as if I'm a child being with the Mother Kali." Many people who have gone through this experience of spiritual states of samadhi said that, they expressed that for them, God is very living in front of them. Yes, there is one saint from Kasargod, his name is Papa, or his name is Ramdas. He has written the books In the Vision of God, In the Quest of God, In the Vision of God. In the Vision of God, when you look at it, the whole book is full of that experience of Ramdas, of being with the God. For him, it's a so living experience. He sits with them, eats with them, feeds him, all this kind of thing, like the way Ramakrishna Paramahamsa explained about all those things. But then Totapuri said that, come on, you have to go beyond that. So mother is so, Kali is so living. He said, so living, then kill her, cut off her head. Oh, that very thought of cutting off her head became like a big shock for Thakur Ramakrishna Paramhamsa. So he said, no, how can I do that? Totapari gives him an answer. That is, whatever the mind that you have created, this God, that Kali, that whatever mind has created this Kali, use the same mind to cut off the Kali so that you go beyond. And he also said, the beautiful thing that you made this Kali, it has really taken away all the vasanas, all the tendencies that are there within you. It purified you. Now you are a very pure self. So that pure self, now you have to go beyond that. In this pure self, there is only one drop of impurity that is there, and that impurity is Kali itself. So cut off that. But how can I do that? Totapuri suggests Ramakrishna, saying that, look, the God that you have created, the Kali that you have created, has a sword in her hand. It's a very powerful sword, a glittering sword, metal sword that is there, very sharp. Said, yes. And who created that sword? It's only you created that sword. Take that sword, and then with the same sword, cut off her head. Ramakrishna didn't understand what is that Totapuri was saying. Then he said, okay, you sit for meditation. And then when you have that experience of beautiful experience of Divine Mother there, pick up the sword and then cut off her head. I will help you in that. Ramakrishna goes into meditation. He was in deep samadhi. At that point of time, he has this beautiful vision of Kali in front of him with reality. And that experience that he had in his samadhi could be seen on the face outside. There's a beautiful, innocent smile that was there in the child called Ramakrishna. And when that was there, Totapuri recognized that that is the time that he is with Mother Kali. And then he took out a piece of glass, a small glass piece that was there, or some nail, something like that. He pierced on his forehead. That piercing at the forehead is so strong, so powerful. At once, that his mind, whatever that vision that is created, suddenly dropped off. It was an experience like Ramakrishna for him, like the sword he has taken, cut off the mother's head. Finish. Everything else is eliminated by the mother. Mother is eliminated. So he slipped into a total nirvikalp samadhi, a total silence within you. Everything is gone and he's there. And Totapuri was waiting for an hour, 2 hours. So Ramakrishna would come out of that pure, deep internal samadhi. When Ramakrishna did not come out of it, Totapuri himself was afraid. What happened to Ramakrishna? But then later on he came out, and that was the highest experience. So that shows that all these gods and goddesses, their question is not that whether they're real or unreal. They are real for you. They are real for you to see that you make your life around that. But at the same time, they are unreal to you to see that others should accept that. You are alone with you. The love relationship between you and the God is absolutely in secrecy, ekanta. Your connection between the God and you is supposed to be in absolute total secrecy. You don't want others to believe in that, others to also have that kind of thing. Others have their own gods and goddesses, their own ways that they do it. But then we have to have that experience to see that how we can transcend transcend all the evil and go in the right direction in a peaceful way. This is what is the spiritual growth. Imagine one vision of a god of, say, Rama, full of those extraordinary, wonderful values that he lived, if it becomes such a strong personality in your dream that you see the image of Rama as clear as the Rama that you are seeing outside in the world, what must be the clarity of your mind? What must be the purity that mind has given? So, all these things are very important to see that your mind is purified. Purity of the mind is very important. But unfortunately, people take advantage of that small little glimpse of that experience and make use of the world as a slave for them. Especially in the name of spirituality, they make the world to be slave. It's very beautifully said that we would like to have more money so that we all like freedom. But then when we like the freedom, we want money so that my freedom, I will have it. Money gives you freedom. But in the process that I use that money to make somebody as my slave, the power, position, all these things we want to make use of somebody as a slave. If I'm high in position, that I make others as slave. If I am high in my power, that I can make others as slave. Unfortunately, this is what happened in the world. We use the money, power, or the position, everything to make others as slave. And we say that we respect the freedom. And if you really respect the freedom, that you don't want to make others as slave with your money. Make others convince others spirituality so that they can follow you. They can become that. That's what is spiritual goal. But then many people that even this so-called in the field of spirituality, when they come, they use this also will to make others as slave. Oh my God, I have seen how many people are there who complain that their teachers enslaved them, enslaved them. On top of it, they say that look, you have to really do the slavery. If you do not do that, it is like Guru Droha. There are a series of videos that are there to show that. I hear from that how unfortunately that people made to believe about Guru Droha. What's Guru Droha? Guru Droha is this way that whatever the Guru stands for, you have to be that kind of a thing. It's not that whatever that unfortunate things that he says, un, something which is inhuman things that he says that you follow it. That's not right. Look at the way that what happened in the case of Guinness Book of World Record. That there's one incident that is recollected. Long time ago it happened, 1970s it happened. Those days I was a student. I happened to go to USA. There is a so-called spiritual leader called as Jim Jones, supposed to be a spiritual person. And then he enslaved them such a way. He took more than 1,000 people to a spiritual retreat, 10 days or so, whatever it is. In this 10 days that he brainwashed them, saying that you have to die, you cannot live. And then death is the only proper solution for the life. He brainwashed them, he made them his slaves so much that nobody can say no to him. In such a way, finally, that on the last day that more than 1,000 people they took the cyanide poison and killed themselves. Is it spirituality? You don't even look at the way that on the other hand, we have such people like Mahavir, who did not even want to kill an ant. And here is a person in the name of spirituality killed more than 1,000 people. Much later, in late 1990s or 2000 at that time, in America, there was one incident that happened in the Rancho Waco in Texas, where more than 140 people burned themselves in that particular retreat place. What an unfortunate thing it is. In the name of spirituality, let's try to understand what's the right kind of spirituality. It's not slavery. A guru says that look, if you do not do anything, if you do not do the way that I want you to do it, it's like a guru droha. Forget about it. Don't believe in that. Because the Guru Sishya Sambandha is something which is extraordinary, very, very auspicious, very sacred. And that can only lead into the areas of compassion, freedom, and love. These are the things. It's not going to the material world, but it takes you away from the material world. That's why the subject, this word guru, has been so much misused. Today is the Guru Purnima day. It's a very beautiful day for us. Extraordinary, wonderful concept of Guru. Because we have, this is the day when the greatest of all the day great gurus, that Vyasa was born. And on this day, Vyasa has given the world the whole wisdom. Today, what we see in the name of, whether name it Vedas, name it as the Puranas or the scriptures, everything that is there is given by Vyasa. Extraordinary, wonderful day. Such a wonderful guidance that we have from this great Guru. And the Guru Parampara followed. And such gurus who give that, they are supposed to be gods. In fact, it is said that these are greater than the gods because the simple reason is God we really do not see, do not know. And only thing is God because of these qualities. And we have people who live that kind of qualities, and they are the gurus. So therefore it says that God I do not know, but I can see God through the guru. He is the vehicle, he is the means, and he is the image, and that's what we follow. Such an extraordinary, wonderful, pious institution that is their Guru has been misrepresented, misused by a lot. And the relationship between the teacher and the student, the Guru and the Sishya, Antevasi, is one to one. It doesn't have to be externally expressed in the form of doing all kinds of service, but feeling that internally is very important. We had such great gurus in this culture, not only in this culture, in the world, that we had such great people, guided people in the right direction. And right from the times that mankind is born, this is always going on. And all these gurus are the people who have taken man towards spiritual journey, moral journey, and towards that journey with the values. There can be so much other knowledge that is there, the knowledge about the world, knowledge about the material world. Fine. There are some people who give that knowledge. They're all what we call it as teachers. But whereas the gurus are the one who not only give that knowledge, but more importantly is they take us towards this spirituality which is beyond all the dogmas, beyond all the negativities. They do not make you to believe something, but then they give you a direction to see that you realize, you experience that. This is what is the Guru Parampara. That means to say, Parampara does not mean that I follow one particular Guru and then that same Guru continues like that. It's not like that. The Guru Parampara is that those who have touched that spirituality within, they are able to communicate that spirituality to the people. And then people become spiritual. This is the kind of parampara that we think of it. So there can be several faiths, several ways that people look at it, different kind of approaches that is there. That's why we have umpteen number of gurus that are there, various ways that people go walk in the path of spirituality. Thank God. I mean, we should really thank this whole parampara of gurus, teachers who are there, make the man to understand the spiritual journey, go into the spiritual journey. These are very, very special people. They have that experience and they pass on, they try to pass on that experience with the others. We have Buddhas and we have Krishnas who gave this message, and we have Patanjalis who gave this message, and also Vyasa, Vasishta. Of the recent times, we have such wonderful teachers like Jiddu Krishnamurti, several others who come forward to see that they lead the mankind in the right direction. Let's keep this door open for the gurus and then see this journey continues. A message on this beautiful Guru Purnima day. Wish you all the best. Wish you all the best in the spiritual direction. Thank you so much. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.